So we looked last time at the sin of the upraised fist, or whatever you want to call that. I'm not sure that's an official title, but it's that defiant sin that says, God, I can defy you and I can live in peace no matter what you say. We're going to go on and just kind of summarize, come to the end of Deuteronomy. In chapter 30 is this, what we talk about, this prophetic hope or this restoration blessing. In chapter 30, verse 1, it says, "So it shall be when all of these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, which I've set before you, and you call them to mind in all the nations where the Lord your God has banished you." So here he's saying, you've already gone through, you went in the land, you got blessed, then you disobeyed, you got cursed, you've been sent away in exile to different lands, banished to different lands, and you return to the Lord your God and obey him, verse 2, with all your heart and your soul, according to all that I command you today, you and your sons. Then the Lord your God will restore you from captivity and have compassion on you, and will gather you again from all the people where the Lord your God has scattered you. If you are outcast at the ends of the earth, from there the Lord your God will gather you, from there he will bring you back, and the Lord your God will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and he will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. And so here's that promise once again of the restoration, which I just emphasize this over and over. That's the glory of God, is the restoration aspect, not the judgment, not the rejection aspect. It's the restoration, that he's able to take even the ones that are to the far corners of the earth and bring them back and make it better for them than it was before. And so in verse 15 of chapter 30 says, "See, I've set before you today life and prosperity and death and adversity. In that I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways and to keep his commandments and his statutes, his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and that the Lord your God may bless you in the land where you are entering to possess it." And he's laying before, once again, saying, you have the choice. You choose life or choose death. Live righteously or live ungodly. There's consequences. Our friend Howard Stearns always says, he wanted to have a little plaque on his desk, and people come in and say things, and the plaque would just say, well, what did you expect? Because, we do certain things. What do you expect? We expect that we live whatever way we want to, and that God will bless it, because, I'm Ed. He's got to love Ed and got to, endorse anything I do. But he doesn't. He's not partial to people. He has ways that he walks in, and our ways of being restored are turning back in these days to Jesus and for his redemption. Verse 19 of verse 30 or chapter 30 says, "I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I've set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, and you and your descendants." So that's a good summary of kind of what the law is talking about in here. As we go on to chapter 31, Moses actually prophesies about the conquest of the land and how Joshua will lead them in, and all these enemies will be defeated. But then starting in about verse 14, he starts to say, "Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, the time for you to die is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting, that I may commission him." So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. So Moses prophesies they'll go in and take the land. Joshua's going to lead them. He also prophesies that they're going to come into a time of falling away. But now it's time to commission Joshua. So we get to verse 23. It says, "Then he commissioned Joshua, the son of Nun, saying, Be strong and courageous, for you shall bring the sons of Israel into the land which I swore to them, and I will be with you." And it came about when Moses finished writing the words of this law in a book, until he finished writing the words of this law in a book until they were complete, that Moses commanded the Levites who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord, saying, "Take this book and the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, that it may remain there as a witness against you." Isn't that interesting, the way it's not this is your guide to blessing, but it's a witness against you, because they already see, God's already telling Moses that Israel's going to have the blessing, they're going to live in that, but they're going to fall away. And that this word is a testimony, and the word is going to be proven true. If you live in disobedience, there's curses that will come upon you. And so that's like the point here is not take the law and this will be a blessing to you, but take the law and it's going to be a witness against you. So we get to chapter 32, and Moses puts this whole thing into a song. He tells this song and both the good things, but then the turning away and how they'll turn against God, and all these things will happen. And when their strength is gone, the Lord will return to them and bring them back. And he says that in going back to chapter 31, before he actually sings this song, he says in chapter 31, verse 21, says, "Then it shall come about when many evils and troubles have come upon them, that this song will testify before them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten from the lips of their descendants. For I know their intent, which they are developing today, before I have brought them into the land which I swore." So the Lord already sees our hearts. And he knows that the intent is going to be here. We're going to walk away from his blessing. They're going to walk in disobedience. And Moses is putting this song together, which they're going to remember, and they're going to sing, and they're going to rehearse. But it's going to be a witness against them for their disobedience, and just show that God's true to what he said. He's true to his promises. And he doesn't back up on that promise just because, you've heard about it. It's talking about that walking in his ways and walking in his obedience. So Moses blesses. There's these blessings that he gives to each of the tribes in chapter 33. Good thing to read over. And then we get to actually the Moses' death in chapter 34, the end of Deuteronomy. Verse 4, it says, "And the Lord said to him, This is the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." So here's the fulfillment of the promise, the covenant with Abraham, bringing him into the land. "I will give to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there." So Moses gets a chance to see it. It's interesting. Someone said in the New Testament, Moses did get into the promised land, because on the Mount of Transfiguration, he was up on the mountain, and there Elijah and Moses appeared with Jesus inside the promised land. So Moses did get there in one sense after his death, but he appeared there physically with Jesus. Verse 5, "So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows his burial place to this day." You want to go on a hunt in Israel to try to find the burial place of Moses? Nobody knows to that day, and even to this day. It says, "Although Moses was 120 years old when he died, his eye was not dim, nor his vigor abated. So the sons of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses came to an end. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him, and the sons of Israel listened to him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses." So Moses had laid his hands on Joshua and imparted the Spirit of God, and Joshua was actually filled with the spirit of wisdom. He needed wisdom to lead this people. And Joshua, the name Joshua is the same name basically we have Jesus, Yeshua. And it is a picture in the Old Testament of the one who would bring us into the promised land. And then it goes on, just the end of Deuteronomy here, it says, "Since then no prophet has risen," verse 10, "in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. For all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to perform in the land of Egypt against Pharaoh, all his servants, and all his land. And for all the mighty power, and for all the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of Israel." That's interesting to me that the description there is not only power, but terror. And I think as we look at all the things that happened through these books and through this time, and the establishment of the law and the bringing them into the land and the fulfillment of this promise that finally is about to take place. As we go into Joshua, they'll actually go into the land. This is the setting for all that God has promised for this people, and it's about to be fulfilled. And it talks about the power of God displayed through Moses, the intimacy of God with Moses, which was so unique in that he spoke to him face to face. And then it says that actually the terror. And I think it's something to remember. We live in a time when not so many of these miracles have been seen. When the miracles actually get seen, it not only is like a wonder, but when it's absolutely supernatural, it's terrifying. To see someone get up out of a casket that's been dead, or walk out of a tomb, or to see a Red Sea part, or to see the sun go dark, or when we get those kind of things that happen, the water turning to blood, darkness coming upon the earth, the plagues that happened in Egypt, and all of that happened. I mean, it's terrifying when you actually see it, when you're living in it. And I think we need to be aware that, we look in the prophets in Micah 7, he says, someday again he'll perform the deeds, the works that he did as they came out of the land of Egypt. And so I think there's a time coming in which the Lord will once again display himself in a way that's visible to the nations, and he'll sanctify his name before the nations. And that's part of what we'll look at in the prophets as we finally get up to that.